We've got 48 participants. Welcome, everybody. It's Dr. Romie. Hello, MDRT. Welcome. I knew some of you would be waiting and ready to join early. It is great to be back with the MDRT family. The last time I saw you all, we were in the beautiful convention center of Miami. And now here we are, and I'm coming to you from my home office live in Orlando, Florida. So why don't you drop a note and tell me where you're saying hello from? And I'm going to have my head of speaking and media relations, my right-hand woman, introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy, and I'm based in Colorado, and I'm excited to have everyone here today. I'll be communicating with you through the chat throughout. We'll discuss this a little more detail, but you can chat if you hover below your window today, you'll see a button that says chat, and anything you pop in there, we all can see. So type in there where you're from. We've got some Vancouver, a lot of Canadians, Ontario folks, Hamilton, Bothwell, London, Ontario, Fairfax, Virginia.
Oh, Canada, welcome.
St. Paul, Alberta.
Yes.
Canada is in the house.
It
is. Kelowna, British Columbia. Oh, it's moving fast. Awesome.
What did you just call Cindy?
I don't know. I am probably butchering this from Christopher Gorman. Kelowna. I don't even know. Okay, I'm so sorry, but British Columbia.
British Columbia.
Oh, here he says Kelowna. Kelowna. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, because Cindy knew I'd be making fun of her all week on
New Jersey, Iowa, Brampton, Ontario, West Babylon, New York, Toronto. Kelowna says we drink a lot of wine here. Very good.
Very good. I think you're not alone in Kelowna these days and drinking a lot of wine. We'll chat about that a little later. Yes.
Huntington Beach, California. So representing the West Coast there. Fort Myers.
For those of you that have gotten on early, welcome. It's great to have you. Thank you. It's always wonderful to be with the MDRT family. I hold the intention that wherever you all are, that you are safe, you are healthy. This is a PG webinar, so feel free to bring in a significant other, partner, your children to watch with us. We will take pauses for meditation. We're going to really get deep into what it means to rise above the panic. So this is meant to be more of an experience. And the intention is that we face our panic and rise above it over the next hour together. Yes.
Perfect. And just a reminder, yes, you are all on mute. So the only way you can communicate at the moment is through the chat box. And we'll go over this in a few minutes as well. But the chat box is really great for communicating with either the panelists or all the attendees. And the Q&A box will be for questions that we want to ask at the end of the presentation.
Yes, welcome everybody. It's so great to be back with the MDRT family as your homie, Dr. Romie. Thank you all for having me join you from my home office in Orlando, Florida. We were learning where all of you have joined us from, and thank you. So you're just watching me kind of take in the energy here remotely and take a few deep cleansing breaths to allow myself to be present here with you all. I don't know if you all are guilty of having multiple browser windows open on your computer with multiple browser windows open in your brain, and it creates this busy brain that we all are facing. So it's just be present, and this hour is for you, and I really appreciate you making the time to be here with us, because I know our lives are all digital now, and from morning until night, gosh, certainly the first 4 weeks, I remember having 12 to 14-hour days in front of the screen for business and family, and so thank you for sharing an hour with us. We're truly honored and presence here with you. So for those of you that have heard me speak at MDRT in Los Angeles on the main stage and in the Miami Convention Center with your breakout sessions last year. You know, we just talk about anchoring into present-centered awareness with breath. And welcome, welcome, all of our MDRT North American family, coast to coast, all the way up from southern tip of the United States to the northern regions of Canada. Welcome.
Yes, I saw someone from Manitoba as well. That was my first mention there. Welcome.
Welcome, yes.
Another California.
So any Midwesterners, I'm originally from Illinois and Cindy's in Colorado. We've gotten both of the coasts. Any folks in from the Midwest?
I have a Tucson. I thought I saw an Ohio earlier.
Yes. And I also want you to all pause and breathe easy. This is the really good news is if you're in your pajamas or you didn't shave or you didn't brush your hair or put on your makeup, we're in webinar mode. We can't see you. So power to you. I'm all about the power of the PJs these days. Now, I'm not in my PJs right now, and neither is Cindy. We don't have that luxury because, you know, we're presenting here to you live, but no judgment. It's all love here. So come as you are from wherever you are. Yes. I might recommend though, if you're on day 3 of the same pair of pajamas, you might feel better taking them out. That is automatically a mood lifter. Yeah. Don't you think Cindy's 3 days maximum?
Very true. I tell my children this. Yes.
Yes. 3 days.
Yes. They have to at least change their PJs when they go to bed. They change them.
I like that system. So you've got, so do you have like a whole new wardrobe in your household, Cindy? Daytime PJs and nighttime PJs?
Yeah, it's pretty much how it works. Even when they're on webinar with their school class, they're in their PJs.
Daytime PJs, evening PJs. I know.
Yep.
So, you know, the interesting thing is in our neurology groups, we talk about the decreased incidence of migraine headaches in children. Our pediatric neurologists are saying because kids are getting to be relaxed and spin and be in their PJs and not have to get dressed for school and run around and be on time, that the incidence, and they're actually tracking this, but unfortunately the same isn't true for us adults. Adult migraines are going up with a panic. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely more sleep for the children is good.
It is. It is. Welcome everybody. It's Dr. Romie. Thank you for taking time to join MDRT's Rise Above the Panic. It's wonderful to be back here with all of you.
Yes, and type in the chat if you haven't yet where you're from. I have some more Florida. I have Michigan, New Hampshire.
Hello.
More Ontario. Welcome.
Yes.
Mississippi. Ooh, Saskatoon.
Yes, welcome. Truly a global and well-spread Chicago. Yes, Chicago.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Man, Canada is well represented today. Atlanta, Montreal, that's the first. San Antonio.
Be safe in Atlanta and wherever else that you've opened up with social distancing. We hold the intention that everybody that is on this call is safe and healthy today, and that your loved ones are too.
Got St. Louis in the house.
Welcome.
Long Island, Cincinnati, Corpus Christi. Oh, at least you have the beach.
Great. Okay. So Cindy, we've got more than half the registered participants on, and I've got it that it is officially noon here.
Beautiful.
In the great state of Sunshine, Florida. So I am going to turn it over to our wonderful MDRT host. Take it away, Julianne.
Thank you, Dr. Romie. I'd like to welcome everybody. My name is Julianne Hertel, and I am an MDRT member from Worcester, Massachusetts, and it's my honor here to serve as the moderator of today's workshop. This workshop is being brought to US and Canadian members and industry guests through the efforts of the Community Leaders Task Force, which is an initiative designed to improve member engagement and raise awareness of the resources offered to our members. I encourage you to keep an eye out for announcements about upcoming member-driven lectures and to participate in some new initiatives we have coming out, such as our MDRT book clubs. As all members know, MDRT recognizes the importance of the whole person. And today it is more important than ever that we take the time to learn how to manage our stress, be mindful about how we can best help others who are also navigating these turbulent waters, and maintain our perspective and our health. It is for this reason I'm thrilled to introduce our speaker, Dr. Romie Mushtaq. As many of you remember from listening to Dr. Romie speak on the main platform during the 2018 annual meeting, The challenges and complexities of our lives can have an impact on our well-being. And as you will hear today, by being mindful of these circumstances and taking steps to mitigate their impact, we can continue to be a source of reassurance to everyone who depends on us. Throughout the talk, Dr. Romie will ask some questions that you can answer in the chat box. And after Dr. Romie's workshop, you'll have a chance to submit anonymous questions, and we will do our best to answer as many as time allows. Now, about Dr. Romie. Dr. Romie is a triple board certified physician and serves as Chief Wellness Officer for Evolution Hospitality, where she has implemented mindfulness and wellness programs for over 7,000 employees. She is on a mission to transform the brain and mental health in the workplace. Dr. Romie's expertise is routinely featured in the national media and on global stages for corporations, athletes, and professional associations. Dr. Romie is bringing her innovative research based in neuroscience, integrative medicine, and mindfulness to teach the brain shift protocol. So get ready to break your stress cycle and brain shift to up-level your performance and leadership. Dr. Romie?
Oh, yay! Thank you. It is great to be here with you all, and welcome MDRT family. I am honored. Canada is well represented in, I think, every province, and as well as the United States. And you heard, wait, there's a doctor on the call, just in case you and I haven't met on one of the MDRT stages or over a cup of coffee at one of your annual conferences or top of the table where I've had the honor to meet you all. I'm just going to have some Romie real talk with you all. You heard a doctor was coming on, and I'm just here to bust one myth straight out of the gate. You've been hearing productivity and leadership experts saying, oh, you're sheltered at home? Well, you're a failure as a leader if you didn't take time right now to learn a foreign language or write a personal memoir. As a brain doctor, I think that advice is tone deaf and it lacks empathy. And if there's any group that I know I don't need to explain this to, it's all of you at MDRT. Know that a model of servant and mindful leadership runs through the history of your organization, as well as believing in the whole person. I mean, let's be real. You all can take a sigh of relief if you're using Zoom for the first time or Zoom webinar. You can just shake out the potato chip crumbs and the popcorn crumbs from your pajamas you may have been wearing last night while watching the Tiger King, right? No judgment, because here's the good news. You're not on video. We are. So it's all good. Take a breath and go to this link, and it's in the chat window. My head of speaking and media relations, Cindy, is online too, and she's going to be saying hello and helping to moderate the chat. Cindy, have you put in the link in the chat window?
Yes, it's there, absolutely. And also just a quick reminder, there's a chat button at the bottom if you want to answer the questions throughout the presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Cindy. So if you go to drromie.com/MDRT, you're going to get a stress test that we're going to go through together live here, but you can do it later and with your loved ones and with some of your team members if you would like. We've also provided cliff notes for this entire lecture, and give us about 24 hours. We'll have the recording of this lecture live up for all of you who registered. So, gosh, normally when we talked about the MDRT whole person, it was bridging the gap of your life, your health, your work, your relationships, and spirituality. But now that gap is kind of all merged. You're sitting at home, sharing space with a partner, a spouse, a loved one, maybe homeschooling children or taking care of elderly. And everybody is asking you, how do we find a new normal? Or no, Dr. Romie, I'm just waiting until we can go back to normal. Things will be back. But you all had a sudden shift to realize things are not going back to normal. It was when I first heard from your senior leadership and your amazing team in the Chicagoland area, when unfortunately, I know, like many events, your annual conference this year in June is now converted to virtual. As a professional speaker, I completely understand. Most of my events are canceled, postponed, or have shifted to virtual. And people call it a new normal. But gosh, if you've hung out with your homie, Dr. Romie, you know this is not about a new normal. This is about a new way of being. And why is that? Because the one thing I want to say is, in a pandemic, the prevalence of panic is present, and we keep getting triggered, and as we do, it piles on the stress. We may not realize it, right? So I pause to ask you, what's your emoji state of mind. And I'm going to take to task some of my brothers and sisters in the spiritual world who are like, ignore the pandemic, keep positive thoughts only. If you're walking around with the hearts in your eyes emoji all the time, I say it's like putting whipped cream on top of a mud pie. When you bite down, oof, baby, you're still tasting dirt. No, let's pause and understand that when we brain shift, we come out of deeper seated fear. And that's what I want to teach you today in the webinar, is that when we know the pandemic of fear is as dangerous as the pandemic of disease, I first of all want to be mindful. I, like many of you, have multiple family members that are at the front lines here in the United States and in the United Kingdom as doctors fighting COVID-19 firsthand. I know many of you have family members that are government workers, essential workers that are out there facing this. You may already know someone that has COVID-19 or has passed away. And I wanted to offer my condolences and my thank you to all of your loved ones who are at the front lines. But there's something that these leadership experts have missed to talk about. And that's why I'm here as a brain doctor, is that the pandemic of fear is as dangerous as the pandemic of disease. And the stress that's underlying anybody that is in a shelter-in-place order anywhere in the world, which touches your entire MDRT global community, is if we don't manage the negative effects of stress right now, how are we going to find a new way or normal or a new way of being? But what if I told you that you, yes, you, not me, not Julianne, not anybody in my organization, but you and you alone have one choice in this moment. You get to choose fear or you get to choose calm. And in the next 40 minutes, that's where I want to take you. With this whole idea, and if you've heard me speak, you know my mantra is this: I am here to remind you that your mind is strong medicine and that you and you alone get to choose calm. Ooh, now you know me, I'm a science geek. Yes, I entered neurology when less than 5% of neurologists were women. I was known as a total geek girl in high school before it was cool to be a geek, right? So allow me a scientific break here. We've talked about this in some of our lectures at MDRT. This is a little reminder. Do you remember the stress success cycle? We're all success-driven professionals on this webinar. And the last thing I want to hear, and I'm sure you want to hear, is, Romie, you need to slow down. Don't be so ambitious. No, that doesn't work for us. But what if I said you can succeed without stressing out? And that was normal times before the pandemic. This need to find happiness. We were really good at figuring out where in the whole person, what was missing in my life. I'm going to worry, stress, obsess, set a goal, work hard to achieve it and do it, get relief and be like, okay, next, what's my next goal? But as I've been talking to companies and organizations like MDRT that I've been serving in the last 6 weeks, what are executives, athletes, and leaders like you telling me? That this has never happened before. We're stuck in a stress cycle. We can't get to the success window part. I know how you feel. I was in fetal position at the end of February or beginning of March, long before the mainstream media hit that we were going to have problems in the United States because we have family and healthcare. We saw this coming. Stuck in a stress success cycle. You're stuck in that worry, stress, obsess. You know I need to do something. I just can't stop stressing. And that's why you're here. What happens? We've talked about this before. When you're stuck in that stress and success cycle, in your airport traffic control center, your brain gets hijacked. And your brain freezes. And there are stress hormones that go surging, these glucocorticoids, adrenaline. It creates these negative changes in your hippocampus or amygdala, what I call your airport traffic control center, that doesn't help you regulate how your brain and the rest of your body is controlled. And it's no wonder we start feeling a little bit more anxious, a little bit more panicked. We're having poor nutrition and can't sleep. I mean, I don't know if that sounds like anybody, but I remember the first week into this pandemic, that was me. Like, y'all, let's be real. Is anybody craving a crunchy kale salad right now during the pandemic? I mean, is there anybody else whose quarantine snacks for 4 weeks were gone in 4 days? Okay, so I've been doing this. Do you know what I've been craving this weekend? Cindy, I don't know about you, and I'd love to hear what your favorite comfort foods are right now during the pandemic. Mine has been in vanilla Greek yogurt, and I got these like what looks healthy, this chocolate flavored granola to put on top, except what was supposed to be 12 servings, I think I sat and finished in one go, Cindy. What have you been eating?
Easy to do. Well, let me say, last weekend we did some baking at our house. So this week it's been cinnamon roll cravings because that's what we baked with the last of our yeast.
What is everybody else craving? Has anybody else put it in the chat?
Yeah, so somebody's craving cheddar rice cakes.
Oh,
trail mix that has the M&Ms, that's the key. Salt and vinegar chips, chocolate chip cookies, chocolate.
Gosh, is anybody getting hungry? I know you're like, okay, keep talking, Romie. I'm going to the pantry.
Peanuts, tortilla chips, candy ice cream, wine, caramel.
I bet wine is a popular one, or beer, or your quarantinis, right? Yes. I'm just here to say you're not alone. When we're stressed out and our hormones and chemicals in our brain are going haywire, this is a temporary stopgap measure. And it moderates our blood sugar temporarily, or all of us craving salty stuff. It's helping you to put minerals back in. When you're stressed out, you're urinating out all these key minerals. So that's why you're like maybe thirsty all the time. That's the stress dehydrating you. But Lord, I'm just here to say, believe it or not, as a doctor, that's okay. In fact, it's doctor's orders. I want you to today enjoy whatever food you're craving, because I know psychologically I just stimulated us. And Cindy, I never eat cinnamon rolls, but all of a sudden the thought of cinnamon and gooey icing, like, but I want you to eat it without guilt and shame, because there's enough panic and fear out there. And if you're stress eating and just more guilt and shame on it, you're going to get stuck in fear. So doctor's orders, continue your comfort foods, because the minute I give you permission to eat it and you do, all of a sudden the healthy foods come back in. It's all good. But there's something more important of why I'm here. And that's when our airport traffic control center gets hijacked in that brain freeze. It's that fight or flight response that you've heard about. Dr. Walter Cannon at the Harvard Medical School won a Nobel Prize in medicine in the 1940s for discovering this, right? It's when you stress out, our brain freezes, and this inability to perform critical thinking skills and difficulty reasoning and emotional distress. And how many of us can run our businesses virtually doing that? Nada. That's why I'm here. And we want to talk about what happens. What do I mean by a brain freeze? Have any of you ever been ready to go into a meeting and you just kind of pause and you're like, wait, I just lost that talking point. Somebody just asked me a question and I was like prepared to answer it. And all of a sudden my mouth went dry. That's not like me. In fact, I normally love to speak in public. I know you all at MDRT. Fear of public speaking for most of y'all is not an issue, but your brain just freezes. And you knew that. You prepared for that client presentation or that company-wide presentation, and you don't know what happened. But here's the thing. I want to talk to you today about how we can pivot when we've been emotionally hijacked. So here it is now. Click the link in the chat, drromie.com/MDRT, and let's grab your stress test if you already haven't. I know you all are like 10 steps ahead. This is not a community that's technologically challenged. We've been on webinars where we have to explain people how to go. My guess is you already downloaded the stress test and you have your number, but just in case you didn't do it, pause, breathe. We're going to walk through it together. I want to give a number. Look, I'm a doctor. You're in finance. We are pretty objective. And I want to put a number to where you are. And so here is your stress test. How does it work? I want to know, are you stuck on a stress and success cycle right now? We're going to put a number to it. So on a scale of 0 to 5, you're going to answer the following questions. And be honest, I don't need you to put your answers in the chat window. We don't need to know where your libido is. As a collective group, this is for you personally. So if you've got tech around and you've got your phone, or you want to open up the calculator on your computer, you can start tabulating. Or some of y'all are like me, good old-fashioned pen and paper. 0 means not at all. 3, somewhat true. 5, it's like, oh my God, she's looking into her webcam right into my living room. And that was me. Yeah, Dr. Romie, you got me spot on. That's 5, okay? So number 1, I experience problems falling asleep. 0, if that's not true for you at all. 3, if you're like, yeah, sometimes my thoughts have been racing. And 5, you're like, every night, the last 10 nights. So let's think about the last week to 10 days. Number 2, I experience problems staying asleep. 3, I frequently experience a second wind or high energy late at night. 4, I have energy highs and lows throughout the day. 5, I'm feeling, Cindy, can you type in my block for Zoom is over there? Can you chime in what number 5 is? Oh, I caught Cindy off guard. Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. 5 is very true. Oh no, sorry, number 5 on your thing. I feel tired all the time.
Oh, I feel tired all the time. I should know that by now. Forgive me. Yeah, my Zoom block is like covering it. I can't move it. Thank you, Cindy. Tech issue. 6, girl, don't even talk to me until I get caffeine in the morning. I need coffee, tea, energy drinks to get going in the morning. 7, I usually go to bed after 10 p.m. 8, I frequently get fewer than 8 hours of sleep a night. Now, by the way, if you were somebody that was energized always on 6 to 7 hours of sleep and that has stayed true for you, that's fine. Just, you're good here. 9, I'm easily fatigued. 10, things I used to enjoy seem like a chore lately. 11, my sex drive is lower than it used to be. 12, I suffer from depression, or I've recently been experiencing feelings of sadness, loss of motivation. 13, if I skip meals, I feel low energy, like foggy, disoriented, like you get hangry. You know what that is, hungry and angry. 14, my ability to handle stress has decreased. 15, Cindy,
I find that I'm easily irritated or upset.
I have 16, I have 1 or more stressful life events. Now, in this traditional psychology Holmes and Ray scale, this normally meant marriage, divorce, death of a loved one, a new job. For most of us right now, this is a 5. Like, I'm used to being on an airplane and on a big stage somewhere in my office downtown Orlando. So if that is you, you're used to being in your office and not working from home, or all of a sudden you're helping your children with distance learning, this is probably a 5 for most of us on the call. 17, I tend to overwork with little time for play or relaxation. 18, I'm craving sweets. I think Cindy and I already came clean on that one. 19, I frequently skip meals, or I just eat sporadically. And 20, I'm experiencing an increase in physical symptoms such as muscle pain, joint aches, headaches, frequent immunity. So take a minute here and total up your score, and no cheating and going back and changing it because you saw what scoring your stress test is. If you're like, oh, let me take an eraser, let me cross it out. Dr. Romie can't see in my living room. Yes, I see some of you. You're like, what is the magic number? The magic number is 30. And I'm about to have a confessional. And I think Cindy is going to tell you the same, is I practice what I preach about the brain shift protocol. And I normally live under a 30. And in the first couple of weeks of the pandemic, I was sitting at a 57. I've not been in that place since I got sick a decade ago. And Cindy, you were telling me the same thing, right?
Yeah, and definitely when the pandemic started, I was well above 60. I'm now down in the low 50s.
Good. We're making progress. And that's why we're here today. And so tell us, yes or no, are you above a 30 on this test? Why do I say 30? Because when you're getting 30, the stresses starting to impact your energy. As you get into your 40s, you're starting, but maybe not realizing there's some mental hormonal issues going on. And over 50, you're going to start having physical symptoms. You're like, wait, why am I getting a flare up of my migraines? Like, right? So that's where we are. Cindy, what are we seeing?
Yeah, a lot of yeses. I do have a couple of no's. So good for you guys.
Good for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of 40s, some 60, some way over 60.
Yeah, and I don't want you to feel shame. I think this is probably the first group where we've had people below 30, and I'm going to guess because when I talk to your senior leadership at MDRT, I know for most of you, your businesses are not as negatively impacted. Your finance business, your insurance, people still need your services. You may be displaced, but you're not at a place with other corporate clients we've been speaking to that have furloughed employees and are maybe dealing with that end. And if you are, I expect your number to be higher. But what I understood from your leadership is most of you are not getting directly financially impacted like other industries. So here we are. And then there's a question for you to think about later on, and it's on that sheet. What areas of your life are fueling your stress success cycle in the moment? You know, I tend to see either people are fatalists and they're like, Dr. Romie, every part of the whole MDRT is falling apart in my life since the pandemic started. Or it's the other end going, I'm fine, I'm not stressed. And then all of a sudden you look and be like, okay, well, maybe my children or maybe my home environment. Like, you know, so take a look at that, right? But here's the real reason that I'm here. I used to do this and fill up ballrooms and came to MDRT multiple times because it's not our relationships that are stressing us out. That through the end of 2019 in North America, the United States and Canada, what was the American Psychological Association seeing? That adults were stressed out. It was a bull market. Unemployment were at record lows, yet adults were stressed out as ever. And the Center for Disease Control was saying 90% of the reason we're sitting in the doctor's office is because we're all stressed out, y'all. But no, we're perfectionists. We're type A, whatever stresses the odor I wear. Let's keep going. No. But you also know my personal story. I'm not here because of those statistics. It's kind of humbling to think 10 years ago, my life got turned upside down. It almost feels like that now with this pandemic. But for me, 10 years ago, I was on that stress success cycle. Many of you know, I have those Indian aunties that would call and say, beta, you need to slow down. You need to think about dating again after your divorce. Oh, and here we are at the turn of another decade and you still haven't found a husband, right? So like if that wasn't stress enough at all, 10 years ago, I was a practicing physician in an academic medical center, not only seeing patients, but doing research and teaching medical students and fellows. And I started to have chest pain and I was responsible. I was in my young 30s then. I went to the doctor and they were like, you're like every other stressed out junior faculty, type A personality. You need to stop chocolate and wine. And we need to do an endoscopy and a biopsy. And girl, you need some antibiotics and your antacids. So I listened and I stopped the chocolate and I started the antibiotics and antacids. And you know what? It didn't work. So I stopped the antacids and I went back on the chocolate and wine. I needed to cope, y'all, right? Like many of you at home, you're like, Dr. Romie, don't take away my wine. I'm not. But here's what happened to me. I continued on that stress and success cycle and I started to have worsening chest pain to the point that I was waking up in the middle of the night and I couldn't breathe. I was suffocating and choking on my own saliva and vomit and getting frequent pneumonia. I know that a lot of the symptoms we talk about for COVID-19, but me, I was diagnosed with a rare medical disorder known as achalasia. And I was burning on that stress success cycle that airport traffic control center in my brain was burning out a path to my esophagus and my stomach and my intestines. And by the time I got correctly diagnosed, I had precancerous lesions. So I take a moment to pause and give gratitude to Dr. Carlos Pellegrini and the entire cardiothoracic surgery team at University of Washington, Seattle. They saved my life. And after I came out of life-saving surgery, I went on this journey. I listened to my aunties who were like, stop, please meditate. What is wrong with you? And remember, you guys, this was before there were apps on our phones or our watches were saying, pause, breathe, yay. None of that was around. You know, many of you on this call are certified yoga teachers, as am I. That wasn't around back then, right? It was kind of weird. So I went on this journey around the world to Eastern Asia, Southern Asia, South America. Like, what is it that healers were doing in other countries that we're not learning as doctors here? I thought it was for myself, but that aha moment, that servant leadership, I was like, I get it. I am here in this moment of fear because I am meant to serve a higher purpose. It's like, how do we help the brain and mental health of patients using mindfulness and integrative medicine? So I went back and got board certified in integrative medicine. And 5 years ago, I founded this company with this idea of I am going to go to large companies and associations and say, y'all, wake up. We're not going to be able to run our businesses unless we take care of our brain and mental health. And there is no more critical time now, whether your business is thriving or whether your business has been wiped out, as most of our speakers have for the entire Q2, and we're pivoting, finding that new normal, right? But not until we get control of the stress, right? And that's why we're here. Because before the pandemic, we already knew that highly stressed out employees, whether it was yourself or your team members, were not as engaged. They were not as productive, utilizing more sick days. But honestly, what do you think is happening? That we're all stressed out and we're at home instead of in the office with each other, right? And children in the school. And the answer isn't, oh, let me put more virtual conference calls in and we're all going to become Zoom zombies together just so I can check in with my employees. No, that's actually raising the stress levels and feeding into the fear. But remember, we started this saying, how do you pragmatically choose fear or choose calm? It's not about a positive affirmation that's like, I'm just going to sit here in this entire lecture and be like, Dr. Romie, I am calm, I am calm, I am calm. Because underneath it all in our subconscious psychological levels, symptoms of fear are driving us. We normally don't say it's fear. From some of the top performing executives, athletes, clients, myself, what am I hearing? That it was this idea of like, yeah, I want to choose calm, and this idea that you are responsible for the energy you bring into the room. And I want to teach you how to use calm and not those symptoms of fear. And you can choose it, but it's a little bit more than just those affirmations. And here's why. You can get on a video conference call and grit your teeth and be like, I'm fine, I'm not stressed, but people know. And that our emotions are contagious, even if we're working remotely, first and foremost for the pets in our house, your loved ones that are in the house, the people you're FaceTiming or video conferencing or calling, right? Your energy and your mood is also physically and psychologically impacting your team members. This is known as the behavioral contagion effect. And we're seeing that it's translating virtually, right? But here was something that interested me. Very early on, I think, again, before the United States had gone into shelter in place, Canada was a little bit ahead of the United States. In fact, most people in the United States was calling this a hoax, saying, I'm going to go on as normal, right? So unless you're myself a doctor, I was seeing all the data from the CDC and WHO late January. We knew there was a problem, family members at the front lines. Most people had no idea. But Todd Herman, author of The Alter Ego Effect, he was traveling and unfortunately got infected with COVID-19. Hospitalized, was at home. He is okay now. Quarantined himself, and his wife got infected as well, away. And as a specialist in leadership and psychology himself, he said, I'm going to call clients just like all of you, leaders who have revenues from somewhere from 2.5 million to 250 million, and see, like, how are they handling the fear? And I found this fascinating, and you're going to see why. And I want to ask you, what type of leader are you? He found that there were 3 types of leaders, right? Are you the fear-focused leader? I'm looking at you. And you're like, no, that's not me, Dr. Romie. No, I'm number 3. Or are you the unfocused leader, right? Just kind of wait. Or are you the strategy-focused leader? Well, let's see. Okay, I'm going to go old school now. I'm totally aging myself. But if you're in North America and you're of a certain age, do you remember life before the 24-hour cartoon channels? You had to wake up on a Saturday morning to catch your favorite cartoon. So like, what are your favorite cartoon characters from your childhood? I want to hear it. I'm going old school, and we're going to talk about the 3 types of leaders. Number 1, the fear-focused leader. Fear archetype A. Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. Beep, beep, right? You were either chasing or you're being chased, and everywhere you go, you're kicking up dirt trying to find a solution, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cindy, anybody saying Wile E. Coyote and
Oh yeah, Wile E. Coyote along with Bugs Bunny, similar too, right there. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Any other good cartoons in there?
Oh yeah, we had, well, Yosemite Sam,
Mm-hmm.
G-Force, Space Ghost,
Oh, I forgot about Space Ghost. Yeah.
Popeye,
Oh,
Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry. Oh, all the old school. We're getting a little nostalgic. That's a good throwback. Thank you all for being so gentlemanly and ladylike that I'm not the only one out on a ledge aging myself, right? But if you can relate to Wile E. Coyote, who were these people? That when the news of the pandemic and shelter in place first broke in your country, you were very emotional, concerned, couldn't get away from the television, consuming 5 times the amount of media, and overwhelmed, but most of all using negative future pacing words such as, oh, I'll never be on stages speaking again, God forbid, that's not me, but, or I'll never recover these clients, or we'll never have an in-person MDRT annual conference again, right? These are negative future pacing words. You can't see yourself on the other side of a problem. That's fear archetype A, wily coyote, and just running around, kicking up dust and not really getting to the goal you were chasing. And there's the fear archetype B. I don't know if anybody had the Winnie the Pooh. My parents used to read me Winnie the Pooh when I was young. They love honey. They used to put honey on my peanut butter sandwiches. And do you remember Eeyore? In his gloomy place, poor me, it's okay, I'll live without the honey. Just kind of stuck with your head in between your legs in the ground. At this point in the pandemic, this group is still uncertain what to do. They're playing wait and see. In fact, most dismissive. These are the people for a long time were calling the entire global pandemic a hoax, that this isn't real. They were like, okay, fine, I'll take a vacation right now. But they were still consuming media, right? They weren't doing anything either. They're just kind of stuck in that gloomy place. Here's where we all want to be. I know, self-confessed geek girl, we want to be the Jedi Masters under yoga, right? Yoda, right? I just said yoga, Yoda, yes. We get it. The fear archetype C, the strategy-focused leaders. These types of leaders at the onset of the news breaking in the United States were 3 times more likely to know about Taiwan's successful response to COVID-19. By the way, they had the fastest, smartest, most measured response, tracing, their businesses were going on, and the lowest number of cases per capita compared to other nations, especially in the Arithas. These were the people that 9 times more likely were already shifting offerings, have made changes and structures to team members, using the word action. What action am I going to take? What opportunity? Don't we all want to be this at MDRT? You all are like, girl, I'm fear archetype C. The truth of the matter is, psychologically, we've all probably been cycling between all of them, but we want to be here. And see, these are the people who use the positive future pacing words, that one day we will gather together as a global MDRT person community. But here was the reason I was so fascinated. What do you think is the one thing that all the Jedi Masters or all the strategy-focused leaders have in common? What do you think that is? Go ahead and type it in the chat window.
Positivity, I see.
Okay.
Seeking opportunity, physical activity, attitude, focus, vision, managing their stress, thinking forward.
You know, all of those should be right? But what happens is when panic gets a hold of us, even people who naturally are forward thinking and positive mindset and do physical activity are stuck in fear, right? That's human nature. Most of us in one realm or another have gotten through it. It was mindfulness and meditation. That's why I got along so great with Todd. You know, he was like the beginning of it and I'm like the tail end. This is what I do for a living. We all met several years ago at MDRT, but for the last 5 years, I've been introducing mindfulness and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy programs into companies and large associations with this idea that it can not only help us manage stress, but it can actually, you know, help us with managing emotional resilience. So all of these leaders had a meditation practice in common. So I take a moment to define what mindfulness is, because it gets a bad rap. And this isn't me preaching a religion or spirituality. I'm a triple board certified doctor. My job is to talk about how do we scientifically train our brains to be present so that we can pay attention. I can be here now without judgment, right? The judgment were the fear archetypes A and B, the wily coyotes, the Eeyores, you know, that we're stuck in emotion, but that we can do this in our analytical states. What happens when we meditate and we practice mindfulness, even if we're sitting in fear? I was meditating as I myself had to furlough team members, right, from my own organization. We bring on something called the relaxation response through meditation. The relaxation response is not something I made up. It's Dr. Herbert Benson of the Herbert Benson Mind-Body Medicine Institute at Harvard Medical School. He has been studying people who meditate since the 1970s and looking at the positive effect. Not only does it turn off that stress response, that brain freeze we were talking about, but it actually increases your creativity and keeps us focused on tasks and improves our performance and productivity. That's the power of meditation. And for all of us that are like, we need to find a new normal. No, we need to find a new way of being, you personally in your businesses and you as MDRT, as a global organization. What is our new way of being in the world of global pandemics and social distancing? So I'm going to invite you all now to take a break for your brain with me. We're going to practice a pranayama-based technique or a yogic breathing technique that's controlled breathing that will anchor us into present-centered awareness and shut off that brain freeze. You inhale, breathe, and exhale longer than the inhale. So join me. If you are checking emails on another browser or taking a screenshot and tagging me on social media, put everything down right now. And saying hello to your friends from all over the community in the chat. That's awesome. Just put it all down and close your eyes. I'm going to ask you to take a nice deep breath. And as we hold it and exhale, straighten out your head and neck and your posture and straightening out our spine. Good. And now inhale, 2, 3, hold the breath and exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, pause, exhale, 3, 4. Inhale the calm, hold it, and now exhale and breathe out the calm to every other MDRT member from Canada and United States that's on this current call. Beautifully, breathing in, feeling in the collective virtual calm of our fellow MDRT members and holding it in and us sending it back out to anybody else who may need it in this moment. Yeah, good. Bring your breathing back to a normal rhythm. Focus on your feet and your shoes and ground them where they may be, or your socks or barefoot, it's all good. And extend your fingers out long and stretch and let go of what no longer serves us. And whenever you're ready, you can open up your eyes. Welcome back. That 3 minutes is what we need to start teaching our brain that in order to speed up, we must first slow down. Yes. We are all fast-moving, success-driven professionals, but I tell you, in order for any of us to speed up, we must first slow down. I invite you, and that is this. Step 1, we're going to talk about fear. Step 2, grief, and step 3, anxiety, and ending with meditation. So how do you face your fear? Remember, I started off with this analogy that if you just say, Dr. Romie, I'm calm, that's just like putting on whipped cream on a mud pie. You're still going to bite into that dirt. I want to clear that fear. False evidence appearing real. This isn't me. This is mindfulness-based cognitive therapy and spiritual psychology. Fear in our subconscious mind anchors there, and it's false evidence appearing real. Right? And here is an example, is that if you once went in for an important presentation, to go back to that brain freeze moment, and you got emotionally hijacked and your mouth went dry, now the next time you go back to that boardroom or that client, you're going to remember it. That's your subconscious mind getting triggered with fear. That's a really obvious example. This pandemic is doing that for all of us, but most of us don't recognize it as fear. These are the symptoms that I've been hearing from leaders who typically model emotional intelligence, like most of you all at MDRT, that gosh, out of the blue, Romie, nowhere, I can't stop worrying. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I feel like a failure. I'm anxious. I'm depressed. I'm agitated, getting headaches, lonely. I can't sleep. Does that sound familiar? Well, you're not alone. And it sounds like most of us are in that same place with stress scores well above 30. So step 1 is I want you to face your fear and recognize and acknowledge those negative emotions. It's okay to say, hey, I've had moments in these last 4 or 6 weeks, wherever the shelter in place orders have been for you all, that I have been feeling anxious, depressed, angry, temperamental, whatever, worrying excessively. I've been there. Everyone I've talked to has been there. So number one, it's to recognize those emotions. When we don't recognize it, we're just stuffing fear down even further into our subconscious mind and anchoring it there. And number two is understanding and processing grief. That these emotions we're feeling of panic that get rooted in fear are not going to go away just because we say, oh, we need to pivot. I mean, has this been the most overused word of the last 6 weeks? Smart business owners pivot. Leaders know how to pivot. Leaders know how to shift. No, we first need to process our emotions, because this is going to be about a new way of being as individuals and our companies, as an organization at MDRT. So what do I mean about giving yourself permission to grieve? I got tested yesterday, right? I think, okay, this is the universe testing me to recognize that people grieve. Literally simultaneously on my cell phone, I'm hearing from people who know me. One of them telling me that they are grieving that they couldn't go away on a luxury vacation somewhere in Europe. Another one was my cousin, who's a doctor at the front end, panicking because they're without PPE. And another person was one of my dear friends who was just grieving and couldn't tolerate that her children weren't going back to school this week because she has had it with the distance learning and can't keep up with her own job at the same time. And she's worried about paying the bills. Now, all of you are very empathetic at MDRT, and you're also very rational. As I say that to your rational mind, you're like, really, Romie? Yeah, a lack of PPE for a healthcare worker is a lot more serious than someone who's grieving that they can't go away on a luxury vacation. That's judgment, by the way. But really, that's what rationale is telling us. And yeah, in rational times, we would think that way. But guess what? Fear and grief in the brain don't work that way. They all register as like going 100 miles per hour, like the road runner. So it's okay to grieve a disruption in your daily schedule or a change in your finances or business goals. I mean, can we be real? There are some of us on this call, myself included, that our operations and business projections don't look the same today as January 1st, 2020, just 3 months ago. You may miss eating and supporting your local restaurants and bars, or going to your favorite gym, having to distance learn your children, furloughing employees. I mean, all of this has happened, if not to you, to your clients. So how do we do this? And it's in your Cliff Notes. It's a great exercise to do with yourself, with your family members, with your children, with your team members. It starts with step one. What are you personally grieving? I will tell you what I'm personally grieving right now. I'd love for you to share in the chat, and I'll be open and I'll lead the way, and Cindy will as well. We're in the middle of our holiday month, and this is a time where I slow down, and I typically get to spend time with my elderly parents, my siblings, our extended family, and I'm still single and I'm social distancing in my home alone for the holiday month, right? And I know many of you who were celebrating Easter and Passover can relate to this as well. Cindy, what are you grieving right now for yourself?
Yeah, well, actually, we just found out a friend of a friend passed from the virus this weekend, and so we are grieving the big one right now. Smaller things are the loss of routine and seeing friends.
Yeah, you miss seeing your friends, and I'm sorry to hear about your family that passed away from COVID-19. What are other people grieving, Cindy?
Yeah, so somebody was supposed to be planning a wedding the next few months.
Yeah.
Not seeing grandkids and kids and family, hugging. Faith community, not being able to be in person with their faith community.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Travel.
Mm-hmm.
Loss of work, career goals, awards. Yeah. Somebody was supposed to go to Disney World.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm so sorry for all that loss. And thank you for so open-heartedly sharing. It's okay to grieve those things. And no matter what it is, the brain registers it at DEFCON 1. And so that it feels like severe panic. There is no order in grief of what's big or small. So the first thing you do is you write down and take a moment. Every night I write down, what am I personally grieving for today? And then what are you grieving for your family and your loved ones? Some of you were telling me about seeing your kids or your grandkids or planning your wedding. That's about your loved ones and that. And question number 3, what are you grieving for your organization and your team, right? I was grieving that the first week of April, we were launching Brain Shift at Evo at Evolution Hospitality. My entire team was supposed to be there Evolution Hospitality was going to be the first company, unfortunately they're not now, to hear about the entire brain shift protocol that we've been researching for 3 years. What are you grieving for your clients? I know many of you care deeply. You develop relationships. It's not transactional for you with your clients. And if you're not in a place of furloughing employees or seeing business goals adjusted, some of your clients definitely are right now, correct? And then most of all, what are you grieving for community and mankind, right? That in the United States, and I apologize, I should have looked up the number for Canada, so someone type it in. As of this morning, there's over 53,000 deaths in the United States and over 2 million globally. I don't know what the number is for Canada, Cindy. If anybody writes it in there, I honor and I say, I'm sorry. Yeah. And we pause, and that's okay to grieve all those things. And there's no order in big and small. Cindy, do we know about Canada?
No answers on that. Oh, here we go. 2,617.
I'm very sorry for that. Yeah, I'm very sorry for that loss to our neighbors in the north, right? So once we kind of settle in grief, there's something else that's showing up for many success-driven professionals. Maybe a new emotion that you've never dealt with before, or one that was like an old arch enemy in my brain that I couldn't believe that was showing up. And that was how to process anxiety. So, the experts out there will say, do XYZ for your anxiety. But here's the trick I'll tell you as a brain doctor. There are about 8 different subtypes of anxiety. And there's one particular of anxiety that these last 3.5 years of researching I've seen, it's known as ruminating anxiety, is the most common type in success-driven professionals, right? And alcohol or benzodiazepines actually make that type of anxiety worse. It's going to make the chemicals in your brain churn the thoughts even more. So what the key is after you name your emotion and process grief, if anxiety is coming up to you, you literally change your environment. Get up from your home office, take off the jacket. I won't do that on air right now, right? And change what you're looking at, what you're seeing, what you're touching, you're tasting. My team, when I'm on a call, they'll call it a Romie rake the leaves moment, right? I'm in Central Florida, and the neighborhood I have has all these oak trees, and they're just dropping leaves everywhere. And by touching and seeing and being in nature. But here's a quick one, is doing a forward fold with 3 deep breaths. Or here's a favorite one that I've been teaching to athletes for years, or executives that were about to go into a really tense negotiation or meeting, was to stop and breathe and recite the entire alphabet backward. It totally scrambles your brain of what you were processing, right? Now, I mean, washing dishes is a chore that's relaxing for me. Folding laundry, maybe to some of you. Do something that you're changing what you're touching, you're seeing, you're involving your hands. Step away from the digital devices to the best of your ability. Right? And last but not least, if you know your homie, Dr. Romie, is that meditation is medicine for the mind, that we know that mindfulness will stop that stress success cycle. And so that we do that. And I wanted to introduce, so we talked about the breath break, but I wanted to introduce a new meditation for our global community. You'll also see this guided meditation for sleep and the loving kindness meditation on drromie.com/MDRT. You will be able to download a recording of me doing this for you. But as I was, I'll have some Romie real talk with you. I know so many of you personally that are on this call. So it's, I think, okay if I be vulnerable, is I was in fetal position for like about the first 4 or 5 days of March. We were having to move family members around because of the multiple doctors in our families in London and here in the United States with elderly aunts, uncles, my parents. We already knew there was a PPE shortage. My business was getting postponed or canceled or turning virtual. Like everything was changing, right? And I reached out to a mindfulness teacher and I was like, help, I'm feeling the energy. And people are looking to me to lead right now. And they reminded me of the loving kindness meditation. This is a Buddhist tradition known as Metta Bhavana that teaches us compassion. And the idea of the loving kindness meditation is that you recite it once for yourself so that we are putting compassion on ourselves over the fear. And then you recite it once for your loved ones. And then you recite it once for your team. So we're going to do it for MDRT. And then once for all of mankind. And this was the one thing I did for 1 week because it felt like the only thing I could control. And I saw my stress score numbers come down, and I saw that acumen that you need from, the doctor daughter, the doctor niece, the, a chief wellness officer for Evolution Hospitality, everybody that could need me, I could show up and not be so gripped by fear and panic. And I share that humbly because I know that there may be some of you on the call that are in moments going through this. And sometimes it's hard to get on the phone with another colleague who's saying, business is great, I'm fine, and so I just want you to know there are a lot of us, myself and there included, who've been in the deep throes of panic. And here is something for you to try. So I'll ask you all to just take a deep breath and now breathe with me and just recite this with me, once for ourselves, and then I'll do this once for all of you at MDRT. May I be happy. May I be free of physical pain and suffering. May I be healthy and strong. May I live in this world happily, peacefully, joyfully, and with ease. And so it is. And now I recite this for all of you that are on this call, and for all of the MDRT members, not only here in the United States and Canada who couldn't join us on this workshop today, but for our global MDRT community. May you all be happy. May you all be free of physical pain and suffering. May you all be healthy and strong. And may you all live in this world happily, peacefully, joyfully, and with ease. And so it is. Because as we talk about a new way of normal, my hope is that compassion and empathy lead the way. And this reminder that your mind is strong medicine, that you can choose calm. You have that ability. And how do mindful leaders rise above the panic? Number one, y'all, we face our fears. We name our emotion. We admit that we have bad moments. We don't just ice it over with a random affirmation. We face it. We name it. And then we allow ourselves to grieve and then pause for meditation. All of these notes are there for you as cliff notes if you go to drromie.com/MDRT as our gift to you, the MDRT community. If you give us about 24 hours, the recording of this webinar will be available. So if you're like, oh, I want a team member from my office to see this, I wanted my partner, my spouse to see this, or I know a few members that couldn't make a Monday morning call, thanks, Dr. Romie, but it's Mindful Monday, so that's why we did this, right? So go to drromie.com/MDRT. The stress test is there, cliff notes, and the guided meditation. I want to turn it back over to Julianne, who's going to help to moderate all of your questions now. And thank you all. And we will stay as long as we can to answer your questions. Yes.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Romie. We have a couple of great questions, and for all the attendees, feel free to throw some more questions into the question and answer box. The first one is, I've been having very strange dreams lately. I seem to remember more details about the dreams than I have in the past. Is this abnormal or a normal reaction to what's happening at the time?
Yeah, thank you so much. So normally dreams are how we process our emotions from the day. And the fact that you're remembering them is it's a way, just think you're clearing out the mud of your subconscious levels of fear. So, the thing is you can choose to react to your dreams. So that's the neurology side. I think, Julianne, people know there's a spiritual side of me too. So what I'll tell you is, in my mindfulness teachers tell me is, you need to be, sleep is the time where our spirit goes up to the universe and gets the wisdom. And when we return back, you should always start your morning with breathing and gratitude that you have breath and that there's intuition there. So if there's something your dreams were telling you that were intuitive, think about it, but don't overread it. That's just feeding into the panic. Just trust that this is like the garbage truck coming in and taking out the fear from your subconscious.
Great, thank you. Another question we got is a fluttering in my chest a panic attack, especially if we haven't felt this before?
It could be. Please talk to your doctor. While I am a licensed medical doctor, since you are not my patient, it's not right for me to do telemedicine here. But yes, a fluttering or heart racing can be a panic attack or anxiety, but any doctor is going to tell you, if this has never happened before, call your doctor. They'll do a telemedicine, even if it's just coming and going. They may want to put a Holter monitor on you and just make sure, because here's the thing, with that stress response, and the panic that's going on with the pandemic, we are seeing increased rates of arrhythmias, irregular heart rates. The stress, remember our airport traffic control center is, for me, you heard it was wired to my gut. For some people, to your brain, to your heart. So it's responsible, no matter what your age, to have a heart doctor check that out. I don't want you to panic thinking, oh my God, I have to go to the emergency room and I don't want to get caught with COVID-19. All of that can be done with telemedicine. I have 2 cardiologists in my family, and for complaints like that, they're doing it via telemedicine.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Another question is, how do you feel about a tech timeout or